They said the war on disease was over. The enemy was microscopic, faceless, already cornered by science. In 1955, the United States declared victory against the most terrifying sickness on Earth. Poliomyelitis. The virus that had paralyzed presidents and drowned children's lungs in iron coffins the size of bathtubs. A tiny glass vial held the answer. One injection, one miracle. The Mon vaccine that worked too well. On April 12 that year, 60 million Americans listened to radios as church bells rang nationwide. It was the announcement the world had prayed for. Dr. Jonas Salk's killed virus polio vaccine was safe, effective, ready for mass release. People wept in streets. Mothers who had slept beside hospital ventilators could breathe again. The march of dimes turned into a march toward salvation. Within days, factories began bottling immunity by the million. Newspapers called it the closest thing to resurrection science has ever achieved. They were half right. The first injections were supposed to end a nightmare. Instead, they started a new one. After a few weeks, doctors in California and Idaho began seeing strange cases. Children recently inoculated developed fevers, and within days, paralysis. Not the fake hysteria kind that rumor invents, but real polio. Skeletal limbs limp, spines twisted, muscles gone. Then came worse news. The disease wasn't confined to those injected. It was spreading to their families, neighbors, entire towns. Investigators traced every vial back to the same source. The Cutter Laboratories of Berkeley, California. What the inspectors found is now taught in every course on medical ethics. Batches of Cutter's vaccine contained live poliovirus. The formaldehyde meant to kill it had not penetrated evenly through the dense cellular debris of the monkey tissue from which the virus was grown. Under the microscope, the supposedly dead virus still moved. More than $200,000 children received those shots. Within weeks, $40,000 developed abortive polio, 56 were paralyzed, and 5 died. Pool drains across America turned silent again. The vaccine had worked. It had perfectly delivered the disease it was meant to prevent. The slaughter stopped only when federal authorities ordered an emergency recall. Cutter executives, faced with congressional investigators, repeated the same phrase. We followed every step correctly. And they had. The tragedy wasn't simple negligence. It was hubris multiplied by national speed, workers racing to make history faster than the virus could die. Production resumed within months under stricter protocols. But something irreversible had happened. The faith between medicine and the public had cracked. Fear traveled faster than infection. Rumors claimed every brand was tainted. Parents hid children indoors. But even while the Cutter crisis faded, silence hid another consequence, one that would stretch for decades. The vaccine still carried life inside it. To understand that, you have to follow the mutation. The 1955 Salk vaccine used inactivated poliovirus injected into muscle to train the immune system safely. A few years later, another scientist, Albert Sabinsos, created a rival, a live, weakened strain that could be swallowed on a sugar cube. It spread easily through communities, giving immunity without needles. It also, rarely, regained strength. In about was 1 case per 3 million doses, the attenuated virus reverted bombs into its wild, crippling form. Statistically tiny. But multiply tiny by billions of doses given across the world for half a century, and you get a new kind of epidemic. Vaccine-derived polio. Even today, those strains persist, drifting through sewage in countries declared polio-free, infecting children born decades after natural polio vanished. That's what scientists mean when they whisper that the vaccine never stopped killing. As of 2024, the World Health Organization still reports hundreds of vaccine-derived polio cases each year. The echo of a miracle that succeeded too completely. The natural enemy is gone. Only its weapon remains, endlessly perfecting itself in the wild. The fear sounds ungrateful. Most of the world owes its freedom from paralysis to those injections. Yet the Cutter tragedy and its offspring forced medicine into a moral paradox. Success can outlive failure. And sometimes both are the same event. The vaccine didn't just work. It changed evolution. We erased a natural virus and built an artificial twin that can die because we keep manufacturing it until the last outbreak ends. Even extinction must be supervised in laboratories steeped in risk. Polio's replacement curse haunted the scientists themselves. Jonas Salk, a gentleman, modest, almost monastic, refused to patent his vaccine, asking, "Could you patent the sun?" He believed no one should own immunity. But after Cutter, he spent the rest of his life defending a dream that had partly destroyed children. At conferences, there were murmurs about Salk's accident. He never lashed back. Instead, he went silent, founding the Salk Institute to study biology's oldest question: how systems that heal also destroy. Albert Sabin outlived him and saw his oral vaccine blamed for new paralysis clusters. The two men stopped speaking. Progress had eaten its profits. The Cutter incident changed everything about how America tests medicine. The Buyo 1955 Biologics Control Act morphed into the modern FDA Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, marking the birth of systematic vaccine regulation. Every vial now travels through a maze of quality checks: sterility, potency, inactivation curves, safety trials, emergency review boards. Somewhere between a microscope and a marketing campaign lies the memory of those 5 dead children, keeping laboratories humble, at least for a while. But humility has an expiration date. The rhythm of discovery never slows. New pandemics, new deadlines, the same hunger to be first. The tools change: recombinant DNA, mRNA, viral vectors. But the temptation to skip steps remains identical to 1955. When COVID-19 arrived, the world repeated a smaller, faster Cutter incident in miniature. Factory errors, mislabeled doses, refrigerated batches spoiled by haste. None resulted in mass death, but every recall carried the whisper of the past. We still learn speed better than caution. Behind each syringe stands the same philosophical cliff: who pays when science wins wrong? Vaccines are unlike any other medicine. They are given to the healthy. Side effects feel like betrayal. It's why safe and effective must be a promise without cracks. Because one microscopic survivor in a steel drum of biological death can rewrite trust worldwide. The numbers today tell a split story. Since 1988, global vaccination has reduced polio cases by 99.9%. That is 20 million people walking who would have crawled. Yet in 2023, the CDC confirmed 42 cases of circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus in Africa and Asia, each descended genetically from the same vaccine line first mass-produced to save them. Humanity killed the disease and accidentally built its resurrection kit. In medical seminars, they use gentle academic language: secondary transmission, attenuated strain reversion, community-borne events. In moral language, it means something simpler: the cure did not know when to stop. If you want to see how memory fades, visit a museum of medical history. You'll see iron lungs glossy as car fenders, children smiling from old photos, captions about triumph. Tiny print at the bottom mentions Cutter Laboratories. No photographs of the 5 small coffins that followed. The lesson of the vaccine that worked too well became a footnote, like the footnote before every new experiment. In the late 1990s, an internal report from the World Health Organization warned that eradication campaigns might produce chronically excreting hosts, people whose intestines continuously shed vaccine-derived virus for years, infecting anyone lacking booster shots. Only a handful of such cases exist, but they're enough to keep the production lines running. More vaccines against vaccine-borne strains. A loop perfected. Science created a perpetual motion machine of salvation and risk, each turn costing new volunteers to sustain belief. No one in 1955 imagined technology powerful enough to engineer such recursion. They thought of viruses like bullets. Fireproof them once and they stay inert forever. But viruses are mirrors. They copy the faith and blindness of their creators. In laboratories in Michigan, Geneva, and Mumbai, flasks still hold polio for research use. Or, as one virologist put it, so we remember what we killed. They feed the pathogen to maintain it, studying sequences that, in the wrong refrigeration failure, could reawaken epidemics. Knowledge preserved, danger embalmed, but alive. Standing at that crossroads between pride and penitence, modern scientists quote Salk to reassure themselves: hope lies in dreams, imagination, and the courage of those who dare to transform reality. But few acknowledge the entire sentence he wrote afterward in a letter seldom quoted. And the humility to know reality can transform us back. The humility part rarely trends. The line between cure and curse keeps moving, often invisible until someone crosses it first. For the Cutter technicians sealing glass vials in 1955, it looked like efficiency. For the parents of crippled children, it looked like betrayal. For the next generation of regulators, it looked like paperwork. For us, it looks like ancient history repeated down to the decimal of probability. Somewhere, another researcher watches a virus under a microscope, convinced the formula is perfect this time. Every catastrophe begins with that conviction. And at this very moment, somewhere in the world, a new vaccine is in production, maybe in a gleaming biotech warehouse outside Shanghai, where robotic arms fill vials faster than thought. Maybe in a rural clinic where desperate parents line up, trusting the syringe more than prayer. Maybe in a military lab where scientists test immunity against the next unnamed pathogen. They all share one ancestry. Cutter's glass bottle still echoing under fluorescent light, whispering that the line between saving life and rewriting it is thinner than a virus's shell. The vaccine that worked too well never truly ended. It evolved into a caution printed in every consent form, an invisible ghost in every cold storage freezer. We celebrate its victories, but each success still carries the seed of its first disaster. The systems to prevent it exist, the knowledge exists, the warnings exist. What doesn't exist is the luxury of forgetting. If this story makes you uneasy, good, keep that feeling. Share it, argue about it, remember it the next time the world hails another miracle in a needle. Because the most haunting part of the Cutter incident isn't that it happened. It is that we know exactly how to stop it, and we keep trusting that we never will need to again.